Welcome to Reunite with Self podcast. I'm your host, Rukan. Here, we will be discovering and unraveling what is truly holding you back. We will put the puzzle together and give you clarity on how and what you can do to create massive shifts in your life so you start creating the life you always envisioned for yourself. No more waiting. Whether it is liberating from dysfunctional family patterns or parenting tools and tips that actually make the difference, we will be diving into the truth and core of things that are simple and yet which no one talks about. I will be sharing with you all the things that would have changed my life massively if I heard any one of these episodes. A new world is awakening, and true bliss, harmony, and peace is possible on this earth, and my mission is to bring you closer to that one step at a time. In this safe space, I will hold your hand and give you courage and certainty that you can shift anything and everything in your life. It is time we break the pattern. Whether you want to be the parent you never had or make a shift in your life so you don't play small any longer, you will find the support and guidance in this space. My intention is for you to find your own answers within yourself while you listen to this podcast, so you feel the bliss of reuniting with your true essence, with self, with so much love and compassion and courage. From my heart to yours, let's keep it rocking. My gorgeous listener, welcome to another episode on Reunite with Self podcast. This is your host, Rukan. I'm so happy that you are here. I am recording this podcast, this episode all the way from Turkey. So I've been recording a lot of the podcasts lately from Brazil because I live there. And now I'm in Turkey because I came back. I don't want to say it's one of my homes, but Brazil is my home now. But I came back to where I was born and raised. So I came here to see a lot of my friends and some of my family. And I feel like it's been a while that I didn't record a podcast, but it's only been a couple of weeks maybe. It just feels that way because I traveled so much. I came all the way here. I'm so grateful that I'm here. I've also been a little sick because I was just tired, I'm guessing. And I don't know, I feel like I'm going through like a spiritual cleanse. Whenever I go through a spiritual cleanse, I sometimes get a little sick, and I didn't really listen to my body for a while either because I was like going out. I was so excited to see my friends, but now I'm just taking it slow for the last couple of days. And I'm so happy to record this podcast from a brand new, like from a different energy really, because I haven't been working as much, of course, since that I'm here. So I've been listening to a lot of like amazing podcasts that I wanted to, because usually I don't have that much time. I don't give it as much time to listen to podcasts, especially things about like trauma and healing and self-healing journey and all of that. So it's cut. I just stopped recording because I sneezed almost into the microphone. So it's been really amazing. I am learning a lot. I'm so inspired. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to sneeze again. I'm so sorry. I feel like it's going to be a good episode. Whatever I need, I teach. Whatever I need to learn, I want to be the teacher of. That there's a saying like that. Whatever you need to learn, you become the teacher of, or something like that. Wow. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I wonder if it's like the dust from my gorgeous Brazil or something with the mic, that it's closer to my mouth and nose. All right. Let's go. In hot weather, it's always better to be outside. I feel like the ACs are a little like challenging for me right now as well. Yes, so this is my chit chat. Is there anything I want to update you? Yeah, I'm in Turkey. I will be recording podcasts from here. Oh yeah, and I came to Turkey and Instagram is down. like they close Instagram. And I'm sure the world doesn't even know that our Instagram is off here. It's really crazy. Of course, it's about politics. They just turned it off. So crazy. Just makes me think of like, I don't want to think about it, but it's the power that the governments have for whatever they want to do, if they choose to, is really insane right now in the world. Because think of like not just an app, but the whole internet. I don't even want to think about it, but yeah. All right, let's begin. This is something that I hope that we speak about more, how the narcissists gets away with what they do. I mean, how the narcissist gets away with what they do, how the narcissists get away with what they do, and how insane it really is. The more we talk about this, the more people are informed about it, the more it becomes, the more we define these things, the easier it becomes to be aware of them as they're happening, or at least right after they happen, so we can make the right choices if the situation is about us or if it's someone else that we are talking to. This is something that I wish I knew years ago, but to be honest, it's something that I'm still learning just to define it. Like I know it in my heart and in my body, but it's important that we define these things and clarify them so that it's easier for us to create the clarity inside ourselves first in situations, like right after situations maybe. And also it becomes easier for us to clarify to other people in the situation as well if we're asking for support. So important. And of course, it's very important to know who to get support from or not. I took some notes. I'm going to open that. The first time I took notes on my computer while recording a podcast, I usually just have the app in front of me while I'm recording to see, my voice. But I'm going to look at my notes today. I'm going to walk you through about like 4 things, 4 reasons, 4 reasons, not ways. 4 reasons how the narcissist gets away with the insane things that they do that healthy people don't do. I want to start with this because I was thinking about this yesterday, like how, if we want to understand and define again how the narcissist doesn't become a narcissist because of their situation. It's not because of their trauma. It's a decision, like I always say, because everyone has trauma. Everyone has trauma right now. I was talking to one of my dear friends a few days ago, and I reminded her again. She was talking about an elder person in her family, and God bless her. Like she was saying, how can they do this, Rukan? Like I really don't understand. Like what kind of a trauma did they have? And like I know the person's life that she's talking about, and I know the person to the core. Like it has nothing to do with what they're inflicting on their children right now. Like I told her, this has nothing to do with their trauma. And because we're talking about what the person is doing to their child, to their adult child right now for, 20 plus years. And I told her, if there is like 2 men involved in the situation, it's so confidential. So I'm talking about it because there is no way that anyone would know. But I'm saying there is a father and there's a son. Like if this father that you think is so traumatized, and I know his life and I know him so well, and I know all the things that he's been doing, and I know how merciless he is, and I know the son so well. And I know how good of a heart he has and how he accommodates the narcissistic father for so long. And he's just like, I don't want to go deeper into it, but I just told her, if this father that we're talking about, if he went through only 1% of what he's inflicting in his son in those ages, in that story, with that father, he would be even more merciless today. He would have no mercy. He would be even more traumatizing to his closest ones. Not like to third parties, to their closest. He would have even less mercy today. He would be even more, what's the word? Just like, not just destructive, but just inflicting pain for nonsense. And so I want to talk about this. So I was thinking about this yesterday, like how I believe in my soul, I know in my soul that the narcissist's behavior has nothing to do with their trauma. It was only a moment in that trauma that they made a decision that a compassionate person cannot apply in their lives. Like it's not possible for a compassionate person to do. It's just out of the question. Like it's not even a possibility. So I believe that everyone has trauma, right? Everyone has different types of trauma, different types of parents. I'm talking about the trauma from the parents first, and then, it just expands into other circles in your life, and you have different traumas depending on what kind of parents you had, and what kind of traumas you had with the parents. So if there are two types, there is not two types of people. But if I would be to talk about the narcissist, and on the other side of the spectrum, maybe the compassionate, the empathetic, and the loving souls, the highly sensitive souls. If I were to talk about these two, some people get trauma and they make the decision never to feel the hurt again and instead hurt others. This is the narcissist. The narcissist has some kind of trauma. A compassionate person's in a compassionate person's world, that trauma is can never be a reason to inflict pain on others. Can be a reason for them to feel hurt, can be a reason for them to feel challenging emotions, can be one of the reasons why they may have some limiting beliefs about themselves, why they may have some challenges in their adult lives, why they may feel not enough, one of these or some of these or all of these, doesn't matter. It can be a reason why they feel challenging emotions as an adult. It can be a reason why they have challenges in their adult life, in their personal life, like romantic life, in their finances, in their work life, in their career, whatever. It can be any of these things or all of these things. But I would never say it can never be a compassionate person's excuse to inflict pain on others knowingly and just in a pattern, continuing and not repairing. It can never be an option. So let's please clarify this. The narcissist, however terrible the story, their trauma is their excuse, not the reason for their behavior. Because you are so empathetic, compassionate, you may think it's because of that, because you can even feel their pain, and it just makes you human, and it's beautiful. But there is that fine line when you forget what we're going to talk about today. If you forget that a lot of people, actually, the most like compassionate, empathetic, loving, maybe yourself as well, these people that you meet in your journey are the ones that had it the toughest, and it can never be an excuse. So why? Because on the other side of this example of like, some people get trauma and they make the decision never to feel the hurt again and instead hurt others. They make this decision in their heart, in their soul. Like they make this decision for a lifetime. And on the other part, some people, if we were to talk about on the other side of the spectrum, they get traumatized, feel it deeply, and they usually get traumatized in a pattern, and they get abused more because they have more hope that the person will change. A lot of reasons, but they are exposed to narcissism in higher ways, in higher dosages, because they don't make the decision that the other one did. Because the other one can leave the scenario much faster than narcissists. They're not going to get traumatized for a long time. They will leave. On the other side of it, they get traumatized. On the other spectrum, these people, the compassionate, they get traumatized, feel it deeply, okay? Feel it deeply in their heart and understand how it really hurts when someone hurts the other, and decide they never want to do that to other people. They never want the other person to feel this because it hurts so bad. Because it hurts so bad. Because they know how it feels and they don't want that for others. Because there is no difference between you and me. There is no difference between you and I for these people. So they never want that for others because they feel it deeply every time they are hurt, every time they are abused. They don't make the decision to close their hearts. They feel the hurt. The narcissist inflicts that pain instead of feeling it. Because of my experience in life, and because I know and I knew a lot of narcissists, like deeply narcissists, that my brain will never understand how they can do it. And now I know like they are narcissists, so there is no reason to understand it from my point of view. It's just that energy, like I always say. But this is what differentiates a compassionate person from the narcissist. So the second example, the compassionate, they may even have it worse. And usually that's the case, by the way. But they just keep on going. And so let's talk about how the narcissist gets away in situations. Like, you may be in a situation, there is a narcissist and there is a third person, and you are witnessing, maybe the narcissist is doing that towards you, towards the situation, towards both of you, or, like it can be in any moment in life. But I'm not going to just talk about how they get away just with you, but they just get away in situations in life where there is other people involved and you are there, and the other person, the narcissist as well. All right. So the first one, I think this is like one of the major ones. Let's say in a situation, there is a narcissist, there is you, and there is a third person, like at least one person. Healthy people don't do the things that the narcissists do or say. So that's why they get away with what they do. I just created a reel about this like a couple of weeks ago. I can't check it because my Instagram is like, I can't log in to my Instagram right now in Turkey. But I created something like this, I remember, on Kevela's page. So, and it's in the show notes. Healthy people don't do the things that the narcissist does. So this is why the narcissist gets away with it. Healthy, or let's say just like this might be the third person, might be a healthy person, or they might be someone that is like insensitive or emotionally immature person, thinks the narcissist should be going through such an exceptionally challenging time that they are doing what they're doing and that they're saying what they're saying, because it's an exceptionally rare moment. It's an exceptionally challenging moment for them. But it's just another Tuesday for them. Like, this is the truth. But the healthy person, if they're just, maybe the narcissist is someone close to you and the third person is not someone close to you, okay? So you know the truth behind but what's happening, and you're just witnessing it, or you're in the situation as well, and the third person just lets them get away with it, or maybe you're asking for support from the other one. It might be the third person doesn't have to be that far away. It can be your closest to, let's say, the narcissistic parent and the parent that's not narcissistic. It can be that too, but there is other things involved in that. We're going to talk about it, but it can be like a relative, like the narcissistic parent, and then there is a relative. Let's say, you know, how I was telling you, I was talking to one of my dear friends, like we're like family as well. And if I was like, let's say, oh my God, I don't want to say stupid, but like it's really insane to me how in our societies people let people get away with what they do. It's just crazy to me. But if I were some insensitive soul, or if I was immature, if I was not looking at things deeply, if I didn't want to take responsibility emotionally towards my friend, you know, if I don't want to take that risk, because it's easier, it's more comfortable. So if I were that person, the third person, when my friend is telling me about what's happening in her family, I would just let the other person get away with it, because I would think that, you know, they're just doing it in that moment. But it's so crazy to me that, like, being a friend, being a relative, you know, just being someone closer to the narcissist, if you are the third person, you just know that this is not the first, this is not the last. Like, it's so clear. But it should also be clear if we're talking about someone like crazy in traffic or in a grocery store, you know, waiting for something on the line, or if there is like an argument, if they want to be the first one, if the narcissist is just creating some tension and you just know the predator, you just know it, like that's not a healthy person. In any situation, a healthy person would not act that way. There would be something different in it. Maybe they would create a problem, but they would be like apologizing, accountable, mature, like something would be different. And it's just crazy to me, the third person, because they are a healthy person, and so they don't even think that way about going on with stuff. Like, they don't even have that option. They don't even have that potential or possibility. They don't have that as an option for themselves. They think the other person is doing it because it's just such an extreme, rare case for them. So they think it's situational. But it is not situational. I think the opposite would be behavioral or whatever. There was another word, but I forgot. But it is not situational. Like, we have to really, like, I think we have to talk about this so much that in society, we create the clarity, like we know this is an unhealthy person. This is not a rare moment for them. This is just another Tuesday afternoon. Dinner time, they're going to do something else. Like, the things they say, the narcissist dare to do, dare to choose to do, dare to choose to say, in those moments, whatever that moment is, because the story in that moment is very important, as you know. They do it on purpose. So a healthy person would never do those things. Like they wouldn't even think about it because they have a heart, they have mercy, they have love, they have compassion. They're just healthy. Like their intention is not that, they do something so they inflict the pain, so they don't take any responsibility. So, just whatever it is. I'm not going to go deeper into that, but you get the idea. But it is not situational. It's not because they're in such a bad situation. It's not because they are so challenged. Like the other person, if it's you, the compassionate soul, they're having it worse most of the time. But they can never, they take responsibility for their lives. Their way of thinking is never like, oh, okay, let me just dump everything onto this person of all the challenges I have in my life right now. Like whatever I'm challenged in, let me just dump that onto them. Let me just play the victim. Let me just inflict the pain on them instead of me feeling it. Instead, let me share some of my pain with them so I feel better after I dump that onto them. It can even be about complaining. Like these people, some of them, I just remember an example. Sometimes you pick up the phone with them and they just start complaining. They just start complaining, and the tone of their voice is not something that you can ever do to them, because you don't you take responsibility for your life and you have empathy. So you know that if you speak with that kind of voice, how it's going to make them feel. You don't want them to feel that way. It's not an option for you. I think it's important for you to remember this stuff. It would be practical to remember these. If you need to tell the third person, this is not situational. For them to realize how they're behaving towards the narcissist is unhealthy as well, by letting them get away with it. It's actually very unhealthy, especially if it's something involving you in any way. It's very unhealthy. That's why I always say the narcissism is not the problem. The problem is that how unsupportive it is in our circles towards the narcissist with our situation. So let me open my notes again. I'm sorry. So healthy people don't do the things that the narcissists do. So that's why the narcissist gets away with it. Because when there is a third person witnessing, let's say they're witnessing what you are going through with the narcissist. And if they're, I don't want to, when I say healthy here, I don't mean that they're truly healthy, by the way. They might have codependency issues and things like that, that prevents them from seeing the truth, something about emotional immaturity. They don't want to take responsibility. And I'll tell you one other thing in my third point, but they're not really healthy, but they just choose to let them get away with it because it's easier for them as well. But it is, and they want to believe that it's situational, but it's not. So the more we clarify what narcissism is in society, the more easier it gets. This is not narcissism is not something that's so uncommon. It's a very common thing. And if we clarify how just dangerous it is, how whatever it is, how dark it is, and what kind of things that the narcissist is able to do, they're capable of doing, then the third person, then we have a chance to tell the person, or they have a chance to understand themselves, this is not situational, this is behavioral, this is not a rare moment. You are just witnessing that moment as the third person, but this is not rare. This is not because the person is going through something in that moment. You don't have to be so empathetic in that moment. That's not healthy. You have to feel empathy towards the person that's being, abused or exposed to the narcissist.
So it's not a rare moment. It's not once in a lifetime moment. It's not because the person is really challenged. They actually don't want to be challenged. So they're just choosing to do the things that they're doing so that the other person, you feel the pain and the hurt. So the second thing I want to talk about is in situations when you want to tell another person, the third person, what happened with you and the narcissist. This is very important as well. If the person that you're talking to is not truly informed about like narcissism, like how, like, in their own lives, narcissism, codependency, like what the narcissist is capable of doing to their most loved ones, blah, blah, blah. It's not easy for them to understand what you went through and what the narcissist is capable of doing and how it's not situational and how like they actually don't have any mercy and it's never going to change. And it's just, they're brutal, they're cruel. They don't care about the consequences they create in your life and all of that. So when you tell others about what happened, this is why they don't get how big it was. Because again, they don't want to take the responsibility. They are not even informed about narcissism, like in their own lives first. Because if they create the clarity in their lives, then it's so much easier for you to see in other people's lives as well. Like you are just telling the tip of the iceberg. Like there is no way you can explain to them what happened. You can tell them for 2 hours and you haven't even scratched the surface. You can tell them for 2 hours and you haven't even scratched the surface. By the way, I would love to do another episode on this and let me think about like how I would want to formulate this, because this is something that I figured out very recently as well. Like I knew it again in my body, but I didn't know what it was. Again, things that we have to talk about so that the more informed we are, the better we live. Like we know what choices to make so that we don't get even more harmed by the actions of the narcissist. Telling others about what happened. I always talk about like always be careful who you ask support from about narcissism, because there is so much sabotage. I always talk about this, like this is very important, because the problem is that you don't get the support and they sabotage you and you feel even worse than before, like before you told them what happened. They sabotage you in some ways to create like shame, guilt in you, blah, blah, blah. And then, show you like the white in the narcissist, like there like it's like yin and yang, like in every darkness there's a little bit of light. It doesn't change the fact of what they have done any one bit. They might love you, it doesn't change anything. Like I always say, I don't care about I have good intentions, I have bad intentions, how much I love you, how much I don't. Like that's like irrelevant to the discussion, to the conversation. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I would love to do another episode on this. Let me like formulate. If you want me to, please DM me on Instagram. My Instagram is in the show notes. So I have figured out why it's actually traumatizing to not just tell, but like describe and explain and tell the story of what happened. Because your brain thinks that you're going through the same thing again as you are telling it. And I've had this experience recently. That's why I realized it deeply. Because for the first time, I felt terrible, like I've never felt before, just because I explained to someone what happened with a narcissist. I felt terrible. Like, I'll tell you on the other episode, but I realized that, and I realized deeper why. of why this happens. And this is why I always say, like, if you are going to tell someone, like, walk through what happened, it has to be in a very safe space. Like, so safe that the standards are high. Your one sentence is enough for them to realize you were abused. For me, you can tell me 5 sentences and that's enough for me. You were abused. You don't have to go further. You don't have to prove me that you were abused. You don't have to go to the depths of what happened to prove me what happened to you, how deeply abused you were. I just get it. I just get it as a woman, as a person, as a human being, as an empathetic soul. And we all have empathy, by the way, if we choose to. If we choose to. So 5 sentences are enough for someone to deeply understand what happened if they are smart, intelligent, empathetic, compassionate. And this happened to me a lot as well in the last 2 years that it changed my life. I met a lot of people like this that I don't even have to go deeper. Like 2 sentences, done. Like, let's go. So that's why I always suggest somatic experience. And I want to make other episodes on this, like the healing journey and why it's especially important that you protect yourself. Like, let me formulate how I want to do this, but I don't want you to feel more harm because you are trying to prove someone what happened, because it boils down to that sometimes. Although they may seem understanding, it's very traumatizing to explain again what happened. That's why I don't really believe in talk therapy, because just like talking about stuff can make it even worse. Now I understand why. It's not about like going to the trauma that makes it worse. We have to go deep, 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 deep to the darkest places, but we have to do it in a very, very, very safe space with a very safe, very loving, very like highly intelligent and very compassionate soul that knows what they're doing, and they have high standards for your life. Very high standards for you. They know that you are worthy of amazing things, and like this is a time to heal. Yeah, and I'll explain you further like what the differences are. But basically in somatic experiences, you go into the experience, but it's actually like not being in it sometimes, but being with it, and you have a space to transform. So you make work around transforming, like creating a change in it. So you're not just like logically telling someone what happened, but you are having an experience. So you're going through an experience in a very safe space. And always do this stuff with your gut. Like, always do this work. If you feel like any kind of resistance doing work with anyone, like a resistant feeling like they can be a predator themselves, please don't do it. Don't do it. Saying no is very powerful. So this is why, like, the second thing is that when you tell others about what happened, this is why they don't get how big it was. This is very traumatizing as well. This just makes things even more difficult. And I'm not going to go deeper into it. Let's continue. But in anything that I'm telling you, if you had any experience about any of this, please let me know in the DMs at Kevela, and I would love to do a podcast, an episode based on that situation. And you don't have to tell me everything in detail for me to create a podcast for you. So the third one is, this is very important to clarify as well. And usually you know that this is what's happening actually in your body too. Let's say it's you again, it's the narcissist, and there's a third party. You might be like witnessing in the situation. People are intimidated by the narcissist. So they actually let them get by because they know inside they are perpetrators and they don't want to deal with them. Like, again, let's say in traffic, in grocery store, like waiting online, Like there is something that involves like other people and they create some kind of tension. The narcissist wants to be the first, wants to go ahead, like they're impatient, like anything. And even authorities let them get by. Authorities or people responsible. Let's say you are in a grocery store and the manager in the grocery store or whoever is working there let them get by. Actually, they know inside, like we know in our bodies, like this is like in our bodies, in our brain, like we know when there is a perpetrator. The narcissist, they know that from their body language, from their eyes, from their tone of voice. Like it's just their energy. Let's say their energy, they know, even the authority, they don't want to deal with like an unhealthy person because within they know how far this person will go crazy on them. They just know it inside. They will, and it doesn't have to be like something huge, just as you know, as the narcissist does, they will do in such a subtle way something that will make them feel terrible about themselves, not enough, unworthy, shame, whatever. They don't want to deal with that. And so they let them get by, whereas a healthy person might create some trouble. You know, they might say, this line is too long, like blah, blah, blah. Like they might create some kind of, they might ask for something that's challenging for the person working there, but they don't act. They can be more stern. They can create healthier boundaries and they don't care. Like they just go on with whatever they need to do and they just let the healthy person deal with their own stuff. They don't let them get by like that. Like, of course, it depends on the situation, but I'm just saying you can witness this. The narcissist can be someone that you don't know. You are in the scenario as well, and they might do something towards you, towards other people, just towards the person who's working there, to the authorities, and they let them get by. This is why it's so scary. Even like in anything, the narcissist just gets away with what they do because what they say, what they choose to say, what they choose to do is not something a healthy person would ever do or choose to do. Like ever. So it's kind of like, it's sort of maybe, I'm sure there is like a lot of different scenarios, but like brain goes blank and you just like let them get by. Like there is a lot of, I think it's a lot about them being the perpetrators, the predators. So they of course don't want to deal with the tiger. They don't want to deal with a dangerous, harmful person. So that's why the narcissist just gets away with it. And no one calls them a narcissist. No one calls them anything. They just don't want to deal with it. But if it's someone close to you, or if you're witnessing this and you have a lot of narcissists in your life that have really caused a lot of harm in you, you just get like really pissed in those moments. Like, how the F were they ever able to do that? Like, you would never be able to do that and get away with it. Just because you have like healthy emotions as well, such as guilt and stuff. Okay, so the fourth thing, why the narcissist gets away with what they do in your life, in your adult, like romantic relationships, with your family, maybe like any kind of relationship that you have with anyone, they're like, this is very important for you, for your life, for the past and for today. You have a tendency of like, let's say limerence. Limerence is used for romantic life where where there is always hope that the person will change. You have that tendency for, I don't know if I think it's just called for romantic relationships, but might be for family relationships as well. But you get the idea that you always have a hope that the person will change, and you want to think that it's situational, but you know deep down it's not situational, but you always need to believe that. Like, not that you always need to, you needed to believe that to protect yourself, and it's still a protective mechanism. You think that it protects you, it actually doesn't protect you. And you want to believe that it's situational, that they're going to change, that it's only a rare moment, it's because of this and that and their childhood traumas, of blah, blah, blah. But you have the tendency of limerence. So if you're being abused, you always wish and hope that it will change, that they will change. They will not do it the next time. They will understand you deeper next time. They will understand how compassionate and patient you were the next time, that it's all going to pay off, blah, blah, blah. But it never does. And you again think and want to think, but inside know the truth that it's not situational, that it is situational. You think, but it never is. It never is situational. And the longer that you procrastinate, the harder it gets. Because the more you procrastinate means that you expose yourself to the abuse more. You have higher emotions towards them more, and then you feel anger towards them, but you actually feel a lot of anger towards you because you self-abandon and all the things. And I also heard, like, in a piece of content that this makes a lot of sense for anyone abused by a narcissist, which is, 80% of us or something. I also heard that the deeper the trauma, the deeper the bond. If we talk about like romantic relationships, like for family, yeah, but then in adult life, in romantic relationships, if someone really abuses you and you were not like leaving, or you were not leaving the relationship, it's actually in the brain, like it's so familiar to you from your family that like bonding with your loved ones, being abused is such a familiar thing in any kind of way. I like, and the worst thing is the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse. I also heard the deeper the trauma, the deeper the bond, because it's just very familiar to you from family. And that's why, like, and you can change and shift all of this as you become aware of it. You can control and change things that you're aware of. So you can shift and change all of this, but it's very important to understand like what is coming from where, that, you know, it's not situational, that there is something such as narcissism and all the things. And that's why I've created this podcast. So this is some of the ways, some of the reasons why the narcissist gets away with what they do. And it is just so insane to me. And it's time that we talk about these things more so that we're informed and in the situations. But I think most of the time, like right after the situations, it's important to understand what is actually happening. So if we need to tell the third person something, then we actually talk from our center. And then we make some kind of sense so that when we leave that space, we feel like we haven't abandoned ourselves. I love you so much. We can change and shift all of this, as you know, and this will be your strength. Like as Tony Robbins says, like bring it on. Like the stronger the villain, the bigger hero I become, the stronger I become. So it doesn't matter what you went through until today, or even today maybe. It doesn't matter. You will make this your strength, like your superpower, because that's why it's been happening to you. It's been happening for you for sure. And I believe the more difficult the challenge, the harder the challenge, I think the bigger your purpose is, and the bigger your capacity is, and the bigger healing you will have for sure, if you want to, if you choose to, if you're devoted to it. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you are. You're on the right path. I love you so much. I will see you next week. I will see you shine your brightest.
My gorgeous listener, if you had any takeaways from this episode or from this podcast in general, I would love to know. Please share this episode with a few loved ones right now. You never know how they can benefit from something so small. And please take a screenshot of this episode and share on IG, tagging me at Khewella. That is Khewella. Khewella. That is my goddess wear brand, my Instagram page. I would love to know what your takeaway was, or something you found inspirational, or a confirmation you believe in as well. That would make my day. And you can always DM me if you have a topic or a certain question in mind that you want me to talk about. And give me a 5-star rating if you feel like it. That would help this podcast immensely to get the word out. I love you. See you on the next one. I want to see you shine your brightest.